All right, that's more like it. Wow, it's hot up here. I hope you can feel the heat. So my next guest, it is a tremendous honor for me because not only is he an incredibly accomplished executive, he is a dear and great friend of mine. In fact, for the last 4 years, starting in 2018, he has been serving as an executive vice president and chief marketing officer for UPS, United Parcel Service, responsible for all global marketing, all of the UPS stores, and before that, had a full career, an incredibly accomplished career at Xerox Corporation, where he spent 35 years of his career starting as an intern. He is a foremost expert in data-centric business. He's got a print and digital background that's unparalleled. He serves on the board of directors of Fiserv, Georgetown University, and the UPS Foundation. And actually, he's a Washington, D.C. native. And unfortunately for him this week, he's a Dallas Cowboy fan. So go figure that one. But it gives me great, great pleasure to introduce you to my friend, Kevin Warren. I know we weren't supposed to do that. I'm sorry. Well, Kevin, I have to tell you, I worked with Kevin for about 6 years, and I always had the unenviable task, as I told you in the early session, where my wife would never confuse me with fast fashion, of being next to Kevin, who could be on Gentleman's Quarterly magazine every month. So, Kevin, it is really, really great. Thank you for making the trip.
I am thrilled to be here, Jeff, and looking forward to our chat.
And you know many of the people in this audience.
Absolutely.
So, one thing you don't know about this very affable, smiling person is he's incredibly competitive. And I think we might have a little video to display some of that. Can we run the video?
Oh, my goodness.
Hang on.
Big hand for Worldwide Ping. Kevin will be at the Beijing Olympics next month in the ping pong. That was actually in the Jacobson basement, drinking a little bit of wine, having a little bit of fun, music provided by DJ Jazzy Jeff. So Kevin, so first of all, you have a very broad portfolio at UPS. And I have to tell you all, if you haven't linked in with Kevin already, go on LinkedIn and link in with him. You will see somebody having more fun at their job than anybody should ever have at a job. Share with the audience what you're responsible for and where you spend most of your time.
So thanks, Jeff, and thanks for the introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here with you all. Congratulations on putting together an event like this where you've got almost 600 attendees. It really shows the value that you're bringing, the learning, and the people will come out like that. So this is fantastic, and it's great to be here.
Thank you.
So yeah, you kind of hit it, Jeff. I've got brand, what I call brand relevance for the company. I've got our customer experience responsibility, our digital experience, ups.com, et cetera. I've got a digital business that we're building. I'll talk more about that later. I've got pricing for the company. I've got revenue forecasting as well, and as well as the 5,090 UPS store franchisees. So it's a broad portfolio, but we're having a lot of fun.
Well, with all that, does anybody else at UPS do anything, or is it all you? So Kevin, I referenced it. You spent, 35 years at Xerox, 36 years at Xerox, started as an intern, and that's really where you and I got to know each other. And, I will tell you, tell the people in the audience is, when you join a company like Xerox, where people like Kevin started as an intern, my predecessor at Xerox, Ursula Byrne, started as an intern, they tend to spend their whole life there because of the quality and the culture of the company. So when you come as an outsider, like I was in 2012, not always easy to break in, but I've never publicly said this, but I have to say you just made it so easy for me when I came in to run the graphics business, which used to be part of your whole U.S. operations, and you welcomed me with open arms and made it so much easier for me. And I just want to say it was very special of you, and thank you.
Well, thank you for that, Jeff. And, to me, that was a no-brainer. You may have come to Xerox later in your career, but you had the DNA. You came with the Xerox DNA, so it was very easy for you to come in into the business. And then from a graphic communication standpoint, there wasn't an executive in the industry that knew more than you on that. So that was, we just wanted to win. So I was so happy that we had a chance to work together. It was a blast.
Well, thank you. Now, let's take the other side of that. You went from a full career at Xerox to going into UPS, which I'm not really sure of their culture. How was it when you first went there? And what makes you excited about UPS and maybe some of the changes you've made there?
Well, I will tell you, so UPS, for you guys who don't know, it's a 114-year-old company. It's got 550,000 employees. It operates in 220 countries and territories. It's a $100 billion company with a proud heritage of promote from within. So the entire executive leadership team, when I came, I was the first ever executive at the highest level to come in from outside the industry in the second ever period. My predecessor, 6 months earlier, had come from DHL and Walmart. So it was really hard to kind of integrate into this culture. People were looking like, no, we promote from within. What are we bringing this outsider in? He talks different and dresses different and thinks different. And, he's taking a job away from somebody that we can just kind of promote from within. I did have an appreciation how hard it was for you and some of the colleagues that came into Xerox later, because it was hard. At Xerox, I knew the customers, I knew the competition, I knew the business model, I knew the relationships of the employees and the histories, I knew where all the bodies were buried. So that made it kind of easy to kind of navigate. Here, I didn't know any of that stuff.
Exactly.
I had to learn a whole new industry that was very complex, the whole logistics industry. The scale, I just mentioned that, one of the largest companies in the world. And I had to kind of navigate in to a culture that really was focused on promote from within versus kind of bringing outsiders in. So it was a heck of a challenge. But I was excited about the opportunity to make a difference. So we were working at Xerox, in this industry. It's competitive, right? You got to have your elbows out. You got to be a street fighter. You got competitors trying to kind of take your lunch. Exactly. You got to be ahead. You got to be ahead of the game. And you got challenging competitors. In this industry, traditionally, you had FedEx, you had the U.S. Postal Service, and then emerging was a partner, competitor, Amazon. So not quite the same competitive dynamic. So a lot of the commercial skills that we had,
Correct.
I was really looking forward to how I could bring that into the company to help them compete. And compete on a different scale. And so I saw it as a heck of a challenge.
Super. Now, when you said you dressed differently than the people in UPS, were you involved in the change of the uniforms?
So let me tell you about that, right? So,
'cause I always think of Doug Heffernan in King of Queens,
So let me tell you, the uniforms were one thing, and we still wear our browns. And there are pictures of me on social media with my browns on and shorts and everything. So we're proud of that. But what we did change, and this is, how do you take a 114-year-old company that has great brand awareness, but also make sure that they're relevant and kind of change with the times so you can attract and retain new employees, younger employees, more diverse employees, and also be more attractive to customers. So we had an appearance guideline. That was written that said, no beards. So I never wore a beard in my life until we changed that appearance guideline in December of 2020. So just a little over a year. No visible tattoos. For African American and diverse women, no natural hair. So we had to modernize our appearance programs to make sure we kind of got with the times. So that was, I feel good about, my impact on that. And our new CEO was supportive of that as well.
Well, the employees must have loved it.
The employees loved it, and the whole idea of kind of bringing yourself and bringing your whole self and bringing your authentic self. And we talk a lot about diversity. I know we'll talk about that, but this is really about inclusiveness.
Correct.
Can you feel included in the new, or do you have to like do something that's not natural if you don't want to, you want to wear a beard, but you can't do that. So anyway.
Exactly right. I've got to tell the New York Yankees that. George Steinbrenner still, well, even though he's not alive, doesn't allow it anymore. But so look, I know that digital transformation has been a big issue, certainly for we at EFI, for the industry, I'm sure for UPS, and especially during the pandemic. As a leader, one of the things I always challenge my team, and I'm sure you do as well, is find those profit pools. Don't spread the proverbial peanut butter. In this world of digital transformation, what are you looking at in UPS, and what should we be looking at in the print industry?
Well, Jeff, we always would talk about kind of seeing around corners as well, and really trying to kind of anticipate, where the puck was going versus kind of where it is. So I'll just tell you a little story on how this kind of played out. So instinctively, I knew digital was going to be, it could be a really good play for UPS. I mean, we just saw, we saw the rise of e-commerce, and you just look at Amazon and others. I mean, we saw that coming, and we knew that was going to be a bigger part of our business. And so we did some things to kind of get our digital game together. And then the pandemic hit, right? So we were doing, I mentioned I've got revenue forecasting for the company. I didn't do such a good job in forecasting what we were going to do revenue-wise when the pandemic hit. Normally, our package volume will be pegged to GDP. So when there's a recession, GDP goes down, our package, so we were doing scenario planning. What happens if the volume drops 20, 30, and 40%? And we looked at like Great Recession and kind of pegged. But at the Great Recession, Amazon was selling mostly books, and e-commerce wasn't a thing. So as these businesses shut down, the volume didn't do this, the volume did that. And the fact that we had our digital game together, and we were helping our customers pivot to an online presence, it turned out to be a game changer and really separated us from our competition, and we're continuing to kind of ride that wave.
That's really super, because we were talking about in the earlier session today with Marco Bohr, the issue we have now is the Great Resignation. So you think about the volume increasing at levels you've seen. How has that impacted UPS, or has it impacted UPS? Oh,
well, sure. I think, look, so we get the opportunity to live in, I think it's fortune, may you live in interesting times, right? So air quote interesting. We certainly do. So I mentioned the pandemic curveball. At that same time, Jeff, as you recall, I'll take you back to the end of May, we had the George Floyd killing. So then the whole social unrest. So we got a pandemic, the social unrest, and then at UPS, we were doing a CEO transition that started on June 1st. We've only done 11 of those in the history in 100 some odd years, and it was the first woman. So, we had a number of dynamics kind of coming in at the same time. And our view was, crisis is a terrible thing to waste. So let's really kind of lean in and do some things differently that's going to make us more attractive as an employer. So we said, okay, let's think about, we know what we do, let's think about our why. So, we worked with some of our colleagues, and we came up with our purpose statement, moving our world forward by delivering what matters. And delivering what matters may be your holiday gifts, it may be the 1 billion vaccines that we were able to deliver last year at 99.9% reliability. It may mean making a difference in volunteering in communities that are at risk. So you can kind of fill in the blanks as to what matters. And our employees that really resonated with them. And then we said, okay, it's one thing to say that we're going to be employee, we're going to focus on our employees, but you have to have the measurement. You have to have a measurement. So we came up with a measurement. We called it likelihood to recommend. And so what percentage of our employees would recommend UPS as a place to come work? Would they recommend to their family members or their friends? And we were at 51%. That was not where we wanted to be. We set a goal for 80. We moved that up to about 57 or 58. Marketing came in at 70. I've got a goal this year. I've had to deliver that to 75. So we're really focused on employee engagement and driving purpose. And we think that'll be a differentiator as far as being an employer of choice.
That's really, and that's a key. I mean, that's one of the things we talk about at EFI all the time. How do we become the employer of their choice? How do you set up your operations and the culture so that your family wants to come work here, your friends want to come work here, and it's the place to be?
And we talk about Xerox. I mean, my goodness. I mean, I stayed there. You know, my wife I met there, best man at my wedding, godson, the godfather of my oldest son. So you start kind of building those connections. It's tough to leave, right? So we want to make sure we kind of build that connectivity, which is difficult to do in this world of virtual and hybrid. Yeah, that's the challenge all of us have.
I agree. You know, we've had a lot of conversations as a leadership team about that, Kevin, and EFI. Coming up on 2 years now, how do you maintain that connectivity? I mean, look, even our employees are saying it now. We want to get together because we were about to have everybody come back January 1 on a hybrid work schedule, and then Omicron hit, and we kind of slowed it down and put the brakes on it for a while. But our employees, they're missing it. That's what EFI was built on. It's what Xerox was built on. It sounds like UPS. And how do you maintain that connectivity and the closeness?
You know, it's a challenge, Jeff. You know, so look, we do these employee surveys, and I told you, you measure the likelihood to recommend. And the metrics are interesting, but man, the verbatims, that's where the richness is, right? That's where the texture is, right? So I read all of our verbatims, and there were two major themes out of those verbatims, two major ones. One is our employees in marketing, they liked flexibility, right? So they said that. They were very clear. They liked that. The second theme is they love their colleagues.
Exactly.
They like their relationships.
Correct.
And so, our challenge is then how do we solve for both of those, right? How do we solve for both of those? And, we don't have it figured out. We're really trying to be intentional as to what the brick and mortar value proposition is. So you start talking about collaboration, you start talking about mentoring, you start talking about, that connective, tissue, and how you kind of get together, information sharing, brainstorming, et cetera. But then what sort of things can you do from a virtual standpoint as well? So we're on that journey. Correct. I think we'll all kind of figure it out, but it's a tough one for sure.
Kevin, you mentioned DE&I, and you came from a company, Xerox, that I think was probably the standard for DEI. I know you're doing a lot at UPS, and one thing I just have to give a shout out, I just read this week, and you're on the board of the UPS Foundation, is that UPS has committed in 2022 to donate $17 million to advance equity and economic empowerment programs in underserved communities. And I just think that's a phenomenal initiative.
Thank you.
Tell us a little about that. What drove that? $17 million is a huge number.
Well, I will tell you, Jeff, it's even beyond that. So this is where, earlier today, I was doing Zoom interviews for new auditors for my alma mater, Georgetown University. I'm on the audit committee. And, so they're doing the pitch. It's interesting being on the opposite side of the pitch. I'm used to being the pitcher, not the pitchee. And everybody is talking about DEI. But this is where, I kind of challenge and say, that's where we need to kind of check and make sure the audio and the video are lined up, right? So, you talk about Xerox. Yeah, so it was a Harvard business case study, the corporate few. It was really, back in the 70s, the first affinity group of any kind, really. And it was written as a case study. And then we had the first female CEO of the year, Ann Mulcahy, the first woman-to-woman succession, Ann to Ursula, and Ursula being the first African-American CEO of a Fortune 500 company. So, that was kind of part of our DNA. You did a lot of stuff in your leadership to kind of promote that and leaned in as well. At UPS, I'm really proud of that as well. We've got 6 executives between board members and executive leadership team members who are African Americans on board of directors of Fortune 500 companies. 6. I don't know how many other companies would be able to say that. 41% of our board is women. And you look at our executive team, we've got a female CEO, female chief diversity officer, female head of sales, female chief communications officer. We've got a Hispanic CIO, and then African American chief HR officer. You kind of get the point. So you really have to kind of lean in from a leadership standpoint and then have policies and be friendly to kind of say, okay, this is something that is a value for us and we're going to drive it. And then extend it to the community.
Correct.
You know, you look at millennials, it's not just diverse millennials who care about this, all millennials, right? They want to care about, they care about your ESG and sustainability. That's a value for them. They want to make sure that you're friendly from a diversity standpoint. You're not just kind of talking it. So we see this as, and I kind of talk about it, traditionally, you know, you've been a CEO, I mean, of multiple companies here, and you know, obviously, that, you know, the shareholders, they come down like that, and they want the alpha, they want the total shareholder returns. So you kind of, obviously, you got to get that pressure. But now, you've got stakeholders, right, who are coming up, and they're saying, where are you on DEI? Where are you on ESG? And I call this the new squeeze, where you kind of getting pushed down, and you're also getting pushed up. But the way I look at it is, it's not really a compromise or a trade-off. If you do it right, you know, you lean into diverse customer segments, you manage talent from a diversity standpoint, you have green initiatives, it could be a 1 + 1 = 3, where you're taking care of the shareholders and the stakeholders and doing both, and we're really focused on that.
Well, and to that point, there are multiple studies that demonstrate that companies who are stronger in DE&I drive more value in their companies, and it's a value-enhancing initiative as opposed to a check-the-box initiative.
Absolutely. I think it's just, to me, it's simple. You know, it's from a talent management standpoint, the wider the net, right?
One of the things you blew me away with, the UPS blew me away with, was your Proudly Unstoppable campaign during the pandemic, where you reached out to minority-owned small businesses that may have been having some difficulties during the pandemic. And you also had print campaigns, and I'll ask you a follow-up about that, but would you take the audience through your Proudly Unstoppable campaign? I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm a open up and kind of open up the closet with you guys and kind of let you know here. So we don't talk about this broadly. So when I came to the company, it didn't take me long to realize that the most profitable segment by far was a small and medium-sized business segment. They needed our help more than the large customers, and they would pay for it. But all of our focus was on the large customers, where the margins were the thinnest, where we'd get a lot of volume, we weren't making any money. So then I said, okay. So we were losing share in this S&B. I'm like, okay, this doesn't make any sense, so we need to make this a strategic imperative. So how do we do that? How do we gain share? So let's do some voice of the customer work and survey and say, okay, tell us what you think about us and what would it take for you to do business with us. So we hired a third-party company because we wanted to make sure we got, you know, the full, we didn't want anything tainted here. And we did some persona work, right? And so one of the questions we asked is, so picture UPS, FedEx, DHL, USPS, and Amazon. Picture them at a bar. What would they be drinking and what would they be wearing? We didn't like what we got back. I mean, they basically said, UPS, we see you as old and stodgy. As a matter of fact, one S&B customers, their answer to that persona was a guy, okay, so that tells you a little bit from a diversity standpoint, a guy with a flannel shirt, drinking a scotch, probably with a comb over. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of that stuff, but to paint us totally like that from a relevant standpoint, you know, that's not what we want. So we got that, and what we also found was the diverse segment SMBs, they scored us lower than their counterparts. So not only were we not focused on the small customers where all the profit is, but from a diverse standpoint, if you look at the demographics of this country and where the growth is, SMBs and then diverse SMBs, and then you think about the impact of the pandemic, they got hit the worst. So we said, okay, we need to get busy. So we came up with a campaign. Changed marketing agencies, and we partnered with this company called the Martin Agency, TMA, out of Richmond. And we put this Be Unstoppable campaign together. And basically the crux of the theme of it, Jeff, was UPS is going to help you SMB to be able to punch above your weight, to compete with the large guys, almost like a David and Goliath dynamic, and help you be unstoppable and really kind of chime into your grit, your entrepreneurial spirit. So we'll have special products, services. We're going to invest in you guys. We're going to give you some capital. We're going to train you. We're going to allow you to kind of help you pivot to this e-commerce thing. And oh, by the way, how we show up, we're going to show up in a diverse way. So you'll see the pictures of us in all hues and colors, all ages, international, all sexes. So we launched this Be Unstoppable campaign. And then the final part, I'll tell you, we measure everything. So, we did, and I know you're going to go to what we did relative to some of the express boxes and envelopes where we hired artists.
By the way, we were saying our audience needs envelopes. If you have any, can you please get them some?
Absolutely. So we hired diverse artists, and we had different themes for different African American during Black History Month. We did a Latinx theme. We did an AAPI theme. We did an LGBTQ theme. We're going to do a women business theme in March, and then we had artists in each one of those demographics come up with some artwork, and we put it on the packages and really kind of show that we kind of saw these customers. So then we had to kind of measure. We had webinars, and I did a webinar with Serena Williams, and she talked about her business. I did one with J Balvin. I don't know if a lot of people know who he is, but he's a reggaeton superstar. We did that on TikTok and really elevated Hispanic SMBs to kind of show their work. We had 9 billion views on TikTok because of that collab. So anyway, so we did a lot of stuff. So then we measured. We said, okay, how do we know we're not just doing stuff and we're not getting return? So we have a proprietary metric we call brand relevance, in which we compare ourselves to our major competitors in 3 categories. Consideration, which is, do I trust you? Are you reliable? Do you have integrity? We normally score really high there. Momentum, is this a company on its way up, or is this a company whose best days are behind us? Is this an agile, innovative, digital happening company? So that measures that. And then the third area is ESG. Is this a company that really cares about the environment? Is this a company who believes in diversity, equity, and inclusion? And so when we first started that 4 quarters ago, I got to be careful mentioning competitors, but there was a company, begins with an A. There was a company that was at 131, and we were at 117, and then we had one competitor who was slightly above us, and then there were 2 way down. 4 quarters later, because of all of that, we became number 1.
That fast.
That fast in 4 quarters. So we went from 117 to 126. And that other company went from 131 down to 123, and the other one stayed 120. So, and then, oh, by the way, we also drove record SMB volume 2 years running, which drove record profits and contributed to doubling the stock price. So when I talk about this whole new squeeze, and we think you've got to compromise as to whether I'm going to take care of the share owner or the stakeholder, no. You can find that sweet space where you kind of do both.
That's right. Now, you were talking about artwork. So if you think, one of the things we're talking about at EFI is how do we take the corrugated box and make it an advertising tool? For UPS, do you see that happening? How do you see using the corrugated box?
Yeah, so we've got challenging marketing budgets, and I've got to show the ROI for everything we do. So the boxes, the procurement was running long run. That was already kind of in the budget, not our budget. All we had to do is kind of pay for the artists. So we did 600,000 of the express boxes where we had the artwork, the Be Unstoppable theme that showed diverse communities working together. And each one of these Be Unstoppable and Proudly Unstoppable campaigns. And we had 150,000 of the UPS store Express envelopes did the same sort of thing. So we had the real estate, and the cost was already kind of baked in, and it was very small variable costs from our budget. So we leveraged that to really kind of get out there and kind of show our brand.
Right. Marco Bohr was saying earlier today, he spoke to one customer who didn't want to do all that, but then he came back and said he had to do it because he was getting a 2, 3, 4 times return on their investment.
UPS had never done this.
Right.
It's a proud industrial engineering operator company. That was another challenge, kind of integrating that. So kind of finagling in to be able to use their precious box for marketing stuff was a sell. But again, we have to show the ROI, and when you can show the numbers, that kind of gives you a defense to be able to kind of drive change.
Now, speaking of digital, I don't want to misquote you. When you and I spoke months ago, when we were talking about perhaps, digital printing on boxes, I think you had mentioned to me, and if I'm wrong, please say so, in front of all these people and embarrass me, Kevin, that it was about 10 weeks work in turn from the time something started if you did an analog, and that's why digital is so important.
Yeah, so Jeff, look, your memory is better than anybody's, so ain't no way I'm debate you on any sort of number. So no, you're right. And we've always known this, that there's a long run quantity kind of threshold when you do traditional, whereas digital you can do on demand in shorter windows. And that's really the opportunity. That's the opportunity that, now our challenge is how do we come up with use cases? Because then from a budget standpoint for marketing, then they would have to then pay for those new use cases. However, we can move a lot faster and be more bespoke. So we're in the process of evaluating, hey, we want to take advantage of the company's contracts with these printers, and all we have is the variable cost. But man, we'd like to do a lot more.
Correct.
And by the way, the world is so dynamic, we'd like to move faster. So we're in the process of trying to kind of figure that out right now.
Yeah. I chuckle because you talk about, we've been doing this a long time. You at Xerox started 30 plus years ago. You've been doing digital forever. And the reason I chuckle is we've moved into the industrial applications. And you look at textile, for example, being less than 5% digital corrugated being less than 2% digital. And you see this transition where people are saying, how do we do this? And it's still the same old thing. How do you get a press person to accept a digital file? How do you do the marketing programs? How do you do the business development? The playbook hasn't changed. It's just the applications. You at UPS and what you've done your whole career is about data analytics to drive the segmentation, the personalization, the variable. Maybe you could share with our audience some of the things you're doing from a data analytics standpoint at UPS.
Well, let me kind of give you a digital model case study of hope. How about that? So I mentioned this whole SMB is one of our imperatives. What we found is that some of these customers, they wanted to do business more on platforms and marketplaces and in an integrated fashion versus doing demand gen, checkout, fulfillment, delivery, returns, payments, all a la carte. So we saw a beginning shift, and I came in and I said, okay, so we had a relationship with Amazon, they were the first ones, and we're doing just a little bit of revenue with them. Then we signed a contract with Shopify, 3 years ago. Shopify was a lot smaller. We did a little bit, and I'm like, we could be on to something here. And really, what it meant was a different go-to-market strategy, where we integrated our APIs into the platform. So when the SMBs would go on these platforms and they would buy or they would ship, it automatically would pick UPS because we were there.
Right.
And so, we went from 2 of these, as I mentioned, to now we have 16 of them. We've got eBay. We've got a great relationship with Facebook, Instagram. We've got a number of digital resellers in that space, stamps.com, et cetera. And that business in 2019, when we had 6 people on it, and it was $131 million. By the way, 30% margins, but on a big, at that time, $85 billion company, people were saying, Kevin, this is Kevin's hobby. That's what some of my colleagues would say, Kevin's hobby. Well, all right, so then I said, okay, we're going to to invest in the team. So we took it from 6 to 54. We signed up more partners. In 2020, that 131 went to 609, 30% margin, and all conversion. Then we gave ourselves a plan. I'm sorry, that was 2020. Then we gave ourselves a plan in 2021 that said we're going to go for $970 million. Okay, so 131, 609, 970. And then I got voluntold midway through the year I need to take my plan up to $1.2 billion.
What's wrong with that?
I saw it as a vote of confidence. I saw it as a vote of confidence. And we finished the year, Jeff, at $1.34 billion. So we took it from 131 to 1.3, a 10x at 30% margins in 2 years. And now I'm rewarded with a plan to take it to $2 billion, this year. So, and now we've got 16 partners versus 2. I've added another 30 or 40 people to kind of lean in. We're going to up our API game because we have to make it easier to kind of integrate these things into smaller partners. And so this is now, when I look at the growth that's driving as SMB, this is where the growth is coming from.
And my guess is you're not just taking a one-for-one, you're probably increasing your share of wallet to customers.
Oh, huge, absolutely. So sometimes it's not about how we sell, it's about how the customers are buying, and the customers are buying more and more digital, so we have to kind of meet them there, realizing you have, that doesn't replace our direct sales force for the large, sophisticated, solutions-oriented customers, but it's having multiple routes to market in ways in which the customer wants to buy.
So is that your strategy for your UPS stores? I had no idea you had that many stores. I mean, that's a huge operation you run in addition to being the chief marketing officer.
Yeah, so look, we just made we had a retiree, we had the former UPS president retire after 20 years of great service in the company, and it was time for a replacement. And I went to market and brought in a woman who has retail background. Because one of the things we found is the UPS store, it's great. We beat the plan on revenue. We beat the plan on profit. It's very, very profitable business. But more so, if you look at it from a strategic asset standpoint, there are billions of visits every year, and the customer experience, the UPS store being the front line, is hugely impactful to the overall company. Right. So we knew that, hey, now a lot of our growth is B2C, and so, it's not just business customers coming now, it's more consumers or receivers or recipients. And their expectations on an experience is more like maybe like one of our wives going into a boutique. They want customer service, they want friendliness, sure. They want to be engaged. They want any sort of tension from a customer friction point kind of addressed. So we are really kind of focusing on raising the overall customer experience and brand experience because we know that's going to impact UPS. And most people don't understand. They can't tell the difference between a franchise and own. They just see it as UPS. So that's a real big strategic focus. Look, we're going after the revenue. We're going after profit. But really this is about the customer experience and the brand experience of this growing segment, which is the consumers.
So your team, as we were speaking to them and getting prepped for you for today, they were telling us, ask Kevin about the digitally enabled customer experience. What is that all about? Yeah,
so look, it's this is an area where we're starting to really kind of put a line in the sand, so we're going to improve in this area. We've got. We think the special sauce here at UPS is if we know we have the best integrated global logistics network, bar none. Third parties will validate the reliability, et cetera. It's fantastic. So we've got the best network. We want to couple that with the best digital experience, which also integrates into the customer experience. And if we have both of those, we're going to be tough to beat. We hired Forrester. This is more dirty laundry.
We like dirty laundry.
We hired Forrester and did an audit on our digital experience a little over a year ago, and they gave us a 3,200 page report.
Wow.
It basically said, you're not that good.
3,200 pages? Sounds like a Washington, D.C. bill. Did you read it?
3,200 pages. And so, we benchmarked where we were from a competitive standpoint. We put our best talent on it. And we just updated the experience for UPS.com in Spain and the U.S. in November. And all of our metrics as far as ability to be able to kind of complete tasks, the usability, having it simple and useful, the images on there, the language on there. So I'll give you an example, right? The language. It's an older company, engineering company. So what do we call customers, right? So I'd never heard the term consignee until I came to UPS, but that's what we call.
What is it?
Consignee.
How do you spell that?
Consigne, maybe 2 E's.
Sounds like a soup.
So consignee, and consignee was you guys. When you ordered the package that came to your house, that's what we called it.
Don't you feel better, you're consignees? I like that.
And I'm like, what is this? So literally, we knew we had to kind of update the language and how we talk to our customers. And we said, no, these are recipients of the package. And then, as we kind of built our website, we were asked, we wanted to kind of improve the self-serve experience on how to ship a package. So the language would be, is this a commercial delivery or a residential delivery? Well, most people, why don't we just say, are you shipping to a business or a home? So, so we're doing that from a digital. We're decluttering the website. We're getting rid of all these pages that don't mean anything. And we see digital as really the thread from a competitive standpoint that improves customer experience. It's a channel to market. We see that as huge, and we're putting a lot of effort there on that.
One of the challenges, especially with the world moving so fast to e-commerce, how do you keep your employees connected to the customers?
Yeah, well, I tell you, it's important to keep them connected to the customers, and it's also important to do like what you guys are doing, is to raise their digital game. Right. So we just reviewed, our executive leadership team just reviewed a curriculum that we're taking all of our officers, so our top 120, we call it digital fluency training, and we're partnering with Emory University. Sure. And we're going to go through it first as an ELT standpoint, because we have to up the digital game of our employees. Now, we'll bring some digital natives in from outside the company, but we won't be able to get there from that.
Right.
And more of our customers, they're dealing with digital. They've got to pivot to e-commerce. So we need to make sure that our talent can talk that way and understand the business models and the investments and the friction points our customers as they're trying to make that journey as well.
So Kevin, as we start rounding up, you've had a phenomenal career with still more time to go. As I said, I'd like to think I'm on my back 9, but maybe just the back 2 of 3. I said earlier today, you've got a little more time than that. But regardless of how successful we've been in life, regardless of what we've done, we don't get the chance to do do-overs like we used to when we were kids. When you think back on your career, what are some of the things, if you could do a do-over, or what have you learned that maybe you can impart to some of our people who are coming up in their careers today?
It's a great question. And, sometimes I get that question asked, what would you tell your 20-year-old self or whatever? And my answer to that is I would tell that 20-year-old knucklehead, Kevin Warren, to be bolder, right? To take more risks, to bet on yourself. You got this. You are better than you think you are. And the downside risk on taking chances is not nearly what you think it is. And the upside is probably a whole lot greater. And so, some of the decisions, it took me longer. We talked about that, Jeff, just even backstage here, or maybe in the green room. So I'm you mentioned the Dallas Cowboys, who are partners of UPS, and while their struggle to win a playoff game.
I can tell this is hurting.
Yeah, I should be wearing black right now. I'm in mourning. But one thing you can't. Jerry Jones, I had a chance to interview him for SMB webinar. He was phenomenal. But he bought, in 1989, he bought that franchise for about $160 million. They were losing millions of dollars every month. And now it is the most highly the highest net worth franchise in the world over those Manchester United and Barcelona, over the New York Yankees, over, I want to say $5.6, $5.7 billion. So he took it from that to that. And one of the things he talks about a couple things from a business standpoint. One is he believes in default aggressive. So if you ever have kind of a question as to a fork in the road, whether they're going to go safe, whether they're going to go for it from a business standpoint, default aggressive, go for it. And he talked about that in building the AT&T Stadium, which happened right around the Great Recession. So capital got short, he almost lost his shirt. Fantastic business decision. He went default aggressive there on that. So, betting on yourself, taking chances, continuing to grow, believing in yourself. Yes. And so, when you look at, however many holes I have left, first of all, I'm trying to birdie them all. I know you are as well. But that's really going to kind of lean into my business decisions, my career decisions, and my life decisions.
That's a great point about being bold, because we've seen a lot of executives, and as you mentioned, I've run a number of companies, and I would say the distinction between those who get to the senior leadership team level and those who don't are those who are bold, who are willing to take good, calculated risks, who are willing to put themselves out there, who are willing to get knocked down, and we all get knocked down, and I think the winners are those who get up and come back stronger. So I think that's great advice. So Kevin, we usually end these fireside chat discussions with some personal questions, call it the speed dating round. So what's your favorite vacation place?
We had a fantastic vacation in the south of France in Nice and St. John Cap Ferrat that was amazing. And we've also had, some terrific vacations in Italy and Florence. So I would say those two from an international standpoint. If I'm talking domestic, something you and I share a joy of is fantastic wine. So I try to hit Napa at least once a year every year. So that's how I'd answer that.
Yeah, you don't get good wine in Brooklyn, New York. I'll tell you that. What about books?
So, I recently read a book by the author and columnist David Brooks called Second Mountain. And he really, the book was about, you think about a lot of us as we've kind of built our career. We've delivered the numbers. We've delivered the financials. We've provided for our family. And by the way, that's a journey, that never ends. Exactly. But then, there comes a point in your life, in your career, where you're also looking at, beyond that, significance, right, and purpose, and an enduring legacy.
Correct.
And that really kind of spoke to me. So while I kind of finish out, the round, if you will, I am kind of thinking of legacy, purpose, things that are really, really important. Beyond just the financial metrics.
Yeah, that's a great point, because certainly I know you with your wonderful family and 2 children, same with my 2 children and my wife and your wife, is you want to make a mark, and God forbid you ever get hit by that proverbial bus, you want to make sure you leave them in a better place. And one of the things I feel the same way about our employees, and I know you do as well, I said to our e-productivity software team in my final letter to them, as they're all stepping up to leaders now, leadership positions, as I said, you carry an amazing burden of being responsible for the rents, mortgages, and college educations of your teams. So Absolutely. Be bold.
Absolutely.
What about movie?
So look, the movies, all right, so we'll play a game. And we didn't rehearse this, right?
No, we didn't.
All right, so I'm gonna play a game, and I'm not gonna give you one answer. But for me, movies, cool movies, iconic movies, are movies where you can remember like a key quote. Yep. Right? So let me give you an easy one. And by the way, these are movies that are special to me. You broke my heart, Fredo.
Godfather.
Okay, all right, okay.
Oh, shall I let the audience play? It was Godfather.
Okay, all right, here we go. 2, that's right. And by the way, that's my 2 then 1.
CJ, you're an expert.
2 then 1 is how I count. I love both of them, but 2, and we won't even talk about 3. Okay.
DJ gets the prize.
All right, okay. Put that coffee down. Coffee's for closers. That would be Glengarry Glen Ross. See, you got phone a friend here.
When you said closers, I thought you thought Mariano Rivera.
Well, you definitely got a closer there. Show me the money.
I watched that just the other day.
Jerry Maguire. So I
All
think.
right, but wait. What was his name in the movie who said, show me the money? RT is a hint. Rod Tidwell,
There you go, Rod Tidwell for the Cardinals.
number 85.
Number 85, there you go. So those will be something, they're iconic, and I could go more, but kind of some of those iconic movies you kind of remember. And
Well, I'll tell you, my favorite movie, actually Godfather's right up there, but it's a Washington, D.C. movie, American President.
Oh, yeah.
Michael Douglas, Annette Bening, Michael J. Fox.
oh yeah, that's fantastic. I would tell you one that just came out that we had the opportunity to watch over the weekend, Denzel Washington's movie, A Journal for Jordan.
I haven't seen it.
So he doesn't star in it; he directs it, and Michael B. Jordan is the protagonist, and it's a terrific. I'm not going to give you the plot, but it's worth checking out.
I just heard that, I read today that Michael Jordan, P. Jordan, is dating Steve Harvey's daughter.
Lori Harvey.
And there were some pictures that Steve Harvey wasn't very happy with,
Well, yeah, well, you know,
as a father.
Michael B. Jordan's not worried about Steve.
That's what
He's
Steve
more
said.
worried
He goes,
about Lori.
I can't say much. She'll knock me out. What about your favorite song? I know that you have a diverse playlist.
Yeah, I do have a diverse playlist, you know. So, but I'll tell you a story there on that. So, my wife and I, we just celebrated our 20th wedding anniversary back in October, and when we got married 20 years ago, and this is, by the way, this is digital relevant here. So this story I'm telling you. One of the things we
I
did
hope you didn't get her a digital gift.
well, I kind of did, and she loved it, by the way. So that wasn't the only gift, though, but she did love that. So 20 years ago, as a favor at our wedding, we made a CD with covers of our favorite kind of songs that we thought kind of connected to our relationship and journey. We gave it away, right? So that was 20 years ago. I mean, it was a big production. You had to print the labels. You had to burn the CDs. I mean, it was a huge production. So I thought, okay, it'd be pretty cool, 20 years later, to kind of put together a playlist on Spotify. All right, so this is another, he might need a phone a friend on this one too. So Jeff, the name of the playlist is called 20YIL.
Y-I-L.
20YIL.
Why I Love You?
No, close. Any other guess? Y, the letter Y, not W-H-Y. So, years in love, that's right. 20 years in love, right? All right. And so I came up with all these romantic songs. And look, you got everything from Al Green to some Beyonce, to some Earth, Wind, and Fire, to some Sade, to some Sting.
That's pretty good.
Snow Allegra. I mean, yeah. So anyway, I do have a diverse, and so how easy that was. And by the way, when I first played it for her, there were a song or two she didn't like. We just deleted it just like that, and there's a song or two we added, and it's done. There's no printing. It was easy.
It was an LOL. It was a labor of love. So last two, favorite actor and favorite actress.
So, favorite actor. Denzel, you know, he's got that walk, look, you know, ladies like him and all that confidence and everything like that. I wish I could pull that off. Chadwick Boseman, you know, may he rest in peace.
He was great.
Wakanda Forever, right? You know, we talked about Godfather. You got to throw Pacino in there.
Yeah.
So those would be some of the ones.
Actress?
So look, you know, it was interesting. I was thinking about this. So Renee Zellweger and Regina King, but they both played in what movie? We just talked about it. Jerry Maguire, right?
Ah, you're right.
I said, okay, so that had to be kind of a. And
you
then
had me at hello.
You had me at hello. That's right. See, there you go. That's another one, right? That's another one, right? Obviously, Meryl Streep. I mean, give me a break. And then But all of them have like different qualities. And then the fourth actress, she has her own skill set that's unique as well. That'd be Halle Berry.
Ah, fantastic.
For obvious reasons.
Well, Kevin, I can't thank you enough for being here. It has been so great to see you. It's been a while, and you're like a brother to me, so it's been fantastic. How about we give Kevin a big hand?